Dr. Aidan Rise sat alone in his dimly lit lab, his eyes glued to the data streaming across the holographic display. Ancient ruins from a long-dead alien civilization flickered in the background, their strange symbols slowly shifting as he deciphered them one by one. For years, he had dedicated his life to studying the remains of ancient, far-off worlds, searching for proof that humanity wasn't just a fleeting species, doomed to the same fate as the countless civilizations that had come before them. The world around him, Earth, was in tatters. After decades of near-constant warfare, environmental collapse, and political chaos, humanity's future was bleak. Climate change, resource depletion, and wars over dwindling supplies had left Earth a shell of what it once was. Colonies had been established on distant planets, but they were fragile, and Earth's remaining factions struggled to maintain control over what little they had left. Optimism was a scarce commodity. Hope had nearly been extinguished. But Aidan believed in something more. The whispers of a greater purpose echoed in his mind as he tirelessly examined each ruin, believing that the key to humanity's survival lay buried in the stars. He was not just looking for answers to humanity's problems on Earth, he was looking for a way to transcend them. Aidan believed that humanity was destined for greatness, something beyond survival. He envisioned a future where humanity's intelligence and spirit could evolve to reach for the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners in the vast, unknown expanse of the galaxy. Yet despite his work, Aidan's theories were dismissed by most of his peers. The world had become too jaded to believe in the grandiose ideas of a brighter future. Earth was crumbling, and the people who still clung to it seemed content with the idea that extinction was inevitable. But Aidan had never lost hope. He had spent years studying the fallen ruins of ancient alien civilizations, searching for patterns in their rise and inevitable collapse. IT was on one such expedition to a forgotten planet at the edge of known space that Aidan stumbled upon something truly extraordinary. Buried beneath layers of dust and debris, in the remnants of a long-abandoned city, Aidan found a strange artifact. It was a piece of alien technology, a data core that pulsed with an eerie light, waiting to be unlocked. The moment he connected his neural interface to the device, the words of an ancient race, the Furha, began to unravel before him. The message was clear, and it was far from comforting. The Furha warned that humanity was about to face a threat unlike any it had ever known. It spoke of a cosmic event, one that would either obliterate humanity or propel it into a new era, depending on the choices humanity made. The Furha, in their infinite wisdom, had long since fallen to a power far greater than they could ever resist, the XL-Shar. And now, the XL-Shar were coming for Earth. As Aidan processed the message, his heart raced. The XL-Shar were no mere myth. They were a reality. The ancient alien race had a reputation across the galaxy for their ruthlessness, their efficiency in eradicating entire species they deemed unworthy. They had already destroyed countless worlds, and now Earth was on their radar. Aidan's worst fears had just materialized. But what did this mean for humanity? Were they truly the next target in line for extinction? And if so, was there any way to stop it? Just as Aidan's mind raced with these thoughts, an emergency alert flashed across his console. His heart sank as the news broke. An alien fleet, unmistakably XL-Shar, had entered Earth's orbit. Their ships, massive and imposing, hovered in space, silent and menacing. The message they transmitted was simple and chilling: surrender or face total annihilation. The leaders of Earth scrambled to respond, sending military forces to guard against a possible attack. But it was clear that Earth's defenses were no match for the XL-Shar. The fleet was vastly superior, their technology light years ahead of anything humanity had ever known. The XL-Shar were not just conquerors. They were a death sentence. As the days passed, fear spread like wildfire. People argued, panicked, and began to prepare for the inevitable. Some advocated for immediate surrender, believing there was no way to fight back against such an overwhelming force. Others, desperate for survival, called for a more aggressive response, but none of these plans seemed likely to succeed. Aidan, however, could not bring himself to accept defeat. He knew there had to be another way. It was then that a radical idea took shape in his mind, a plan that, if it failed, would undoubtedly lead to humanity's extinction. He would propose sending a single representative ship to the HFY fleet. It would not be a vessel of war, but of peace, carrying only a small crew. Their mission would be to meet with the HFY, to offer them the knowledge Aiden had uncovered, the warning from the Furha. Humanity would not surrender without understanding the reasons for this imminent annihilation. They would not go quietly into the night. The suggestion was met with immediate resistance. The leaders of Earth, already consumed by fear, scoffed at the idea. Sending a lone ship into the maw of an enemy fleet was suicide. They urged Aiden to reconsider, to fall in line with the growing consensus that surrender was humanity's only hope. But Aiden, fueled by a deep belief in humanity's potential, remained unwavering. If we surrender now, he argued, we are nothing more than cattle for the slaughter. We must stand and fight not with weapons, but with the one thing the HFY cannot control, our will. Against all odds, Earth's leadership reluctantly agreed to Aiden's plan. The ship Vanguard was chosen, and it was to be equipped with everything Aiden thought would give humanity a fighting chance. The journey into the unknown began. The Vanguard would be the last hope for humanity's future, and Aiden had no illusions about the risks involved. But he knew one thing for sure: humanity was not finished. Not yet. And so, the Vanguard lifted off from Earth, carrying with it the weight of humanity's survival, and the hope that they could transcend the very fate that had already claimed so many civilizations before them. The Vanguard slowly drifted towards the immense, intimidating HFY fleet. The darkness of space seemed even more oppressive with the massive ships looming ahead, their sleek silver surfaces glinting with cold indifference. Aiden stared out from the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, his mind racing. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's future. The mission had started with hope, but as they drew closer to the HFY command ship, a chilling uncertainty settled over him. He had expected an immediate response negotiation, hostility, something. But instead, there was nothing. The HFY fleet remained silent. Aiden had read every report, studied every fragment of their language, their culture. He had prepared for this moment his entire life. But nothing could have prepared him for the eerie stillness that hung in the air. No communication. No signs of movement. It was as though the entire fleet was frozen in time, watching, waiting. "What's going on?" asked Captain Karanova, her voice edged with tension as she turned to Aiden, sensing his growing unease. "I don't know," Aiden muttered, leaning forward to study the communication screens once more. The silence was deafening. He could feel the weight of it pressing on him, gnawing at his nerves. The HFY had made their intentions clear in their earlier message: surrender or face annihilation. But now they refused to speak, refused to engage. It made no sense. As the minutes dragged on, an unexpected truth began to unfold. The HFY were not one unified species with a single goal. They were fractured, divided into multiple factions, each with its own vision for the future. Some of these factions were deeply hostile to humanity, bent on eliminating what they saw as an abomination. These were the hardliners, the extremists who had long believed in the supremacy of their race, and their desire for destruction was fueled by deep-rooted fear and paranoia. But then there were others, those who viewed humanity differently. Aiden had always thought of the HFY as one-dimensional destroyers, but he was wrong. Some of them, particularly a rare faction led by Commander Orc, were more complex. Orc's faction saw potential in humanity, an anomaly worth preserving, even if it meant forming an alliance with a species they had deemed unworthy for so long. Their goal was not to conquer, but to prevent their own species' decline, hoping that humanity's strange resilience might hold the key to solving their existential crisis. Aiden's mind raced as these new revelations began to settle in. Humanity was caught between two warring factions, both seeking to use them for their own ends. But there was more. Aiden's intuition told him there was something deeper at play. The HFY were not merely divided among themselves, they were being manipulated. He hadn't understood it at first, but it became clear now. As he dug further into the HFY's ancient records, he uncovered an alarming truth. The HFY, like humanity, had been infiltrated by an ancient parasitic entity known as the Exavran. These parasites had wormed their way into the Exelshar's ranks, spreading their influence like a dark shadow, controlling key figures and shaping decisions from within. It was the Exavran, Aiden realized, that were orchestrating the chaos. Just as they had infiltrated humanity's ancient history, manipulating key moments in Earth's evolution, they had now set their sights on the Exelsar. The parasites sought to undermine all civilizations it came into contact with, slowly consuming them from within, controlling their leaders, and steering them towards their own destruction. Aiden felt a sickening realization wash over him. Humanity, it seemed, was not only caught in a war between factions of an alien species, it was being pulled into a much older and darker conflict. The Exavran had manipulated both humanity and the Exelshare, setting them on a path to mutual destruction, a path that might lead to the fall of both civilizations. This was not just about survival. This was about preventing a force older than both species from consuming them all. The more Aiden delved into the records, the more the situation became clear. His mission had shifted. What had started as a diplomatic mission to prevent humanity's extinction was now a battle for the soul of two species. Should he attempt to unite the factions of the Exelshar against the Exavran, even if that meant making dangerous alliances? Could the Exelshare be saved from their own parasitic invaders, or was it already too late for them? The crew of the Vanguard was starting to feel the pressure of these revelations. Tensions ran high as Aiden's moral compass was pushed to its limits. The stakes were no longer just about human survival, they were about the survival of all life in the galaxy. Could they really trust the Exelshar, even the faction led by Commander Orcs? Or were they simply pawns in a much larger game, one where the Exavran's manipulation would ultimately ensure their destruction? It was then that the betrayal came. Dr. Rhea Calder, Aiden's closest ally and fellow anthropologist, was found to be secretly communicating with a third faction. At first, Aiden was too stunned to speak, too shocked by the implications of her actions. But it didn't take long to uncover the truth. Rhea had been in contact with the Exavran. She had been exchanging information with them, believing that aligning humanity with the parasite would give them an edge. "I didn't think you'd understand," Rhea said quietly when Aiden confronted her in the ship's darkened hallway, her voice low with guilt. "The Exavran, they offer power. Aiden, power to survive in this galaxy. The Exelshar are just as flawed as us. They're losing. I still believe, that humanity needs something more than just hope. We need a way to fight back." Aiden's heart sank. He had always trusted Rhea, but now he realized just how far she had gone to compromise her morals. She believed that humanity could not survive without mastering the same dark forces that had corrupted so many before them. Her betrayal cut deeper than any alien weapon. Aiden was torn. Could he expose Rhea's betrayal to the Exelshar? If he did, would he risk sabotaging any hope for peace? Or worse, condemn humanity to a fate far worse than destruction? Could he unite the factions of the Exelshar and fight the Exavran from within, knowing that Rhea's actions had already set the galaxy's delicate balance on a knife's edge? The stakes had never been higher. The Vanguard was no longer just a symbol of humanity's hope. It had become a battleground for ideologies, for trust, and for survival. The darkness of deep space surrounded the Vanguard like a suffocating blanket, but the real weight pressing on Aiden's mind was far more oppressive. The truth had finally come to light. The Exavran were not simply parasites. They were ancient architects of galactic evolution. They had quietly manipulated the course of history for millennia. They had once infected humanity's ancient ancestors, nudging the species toward the technology, culture, and path they had chosen. Humanity, like so many others, had never been free. The revelation sent shockwaves through the crew, but Aiden was the one who felt it most acutely. The implications were clear. Humanity was not simply at war for survival. It was caught in a much larger battle, one for its very freedom and autonomy. And the enemy wasn't just some alien faction, but an ancient intelligence that had secretly pulled the strings of existence across the galaxy. Aiden stood in front of the bridge window, gazing at the black void outside, lost in thought. Behind him, Commander Karanova and Dr. Rhea Calder stood silently, watching him with a mixture of expectation and unease. The truth was inescapable now, and they all knew what it meant. The HFY had shaped humanity in their image for centuries, its mistakes, its triumphs, its darkest hours. But now, Aiden realized it was time to break free from their invisible chains. "We can't let this go on anymore," Aiden spoke softly, his voice barely audible over the hum of the Vanguard's engines. "If we destroy the HFY, we have to burn all the bridges. We'll be severing ties with the XL-Shar, the Zelkarii, the Vokta, all of them. Every species that's been touched by the HFY. We'll be going to war with everyone." Rhea, her expression tense, nodded. "We can't ignore them anymore. The HFY are everywhere. The XL-Shar might help us defeat them, but they've been just as corrupted as we have." Commander Nova's voice interrupted their quiet conversation, harsh and sharp. "And what do we do if we turn on them? What happens when we're alone? The XL-Shar will come for us. And the Vokta won't sit idle. We'll have no allies left. Humanity will be on its own, a single planet against an entire galaxy." Aiden turned around slowly, meeting her gaze with a quiet resolve. "We'll have freedom. For the first time in centuries, humanity will have the chance to build something that isn't twisted by manipulation." The silence on the bridge felt heavier than ever. The crew was torn. They had all made sacrifices to reach this point. For most, the idea of breaking away from the other galactic powers, no matter how corrupted they were, was terrifying. But Aiden knew what needed to be done. Humanity had been manipulated for too long, and it was time for it to stand on its own. The stakes were far greater than survival now. It was about reclaiming what it meant to be human, to choose a path forward based on free will, not on the twisted designs of ancient parasitic forces. But the emotional cost of that decision weighed heavily on Aiden. The moment was about to shift again, and it was going to hit him harder than he could have ever imagined. Dr. Calix Moore, Aiden's mentor, had been absent for a while, but he arrived on the bridge when the crew was beginning to prepare for the final assault on the XFY stronghold. Aiden had not expected him to be part of the conflict, especially not in the way he was about to present himself. "Calix, what are you doing here?" Aiden asked, his heart sinking as he saw his old mentor standing there, his face a mask of resolve. "I'm here to offer you a choice, Aiden," Calix said quietly, his voice heavy with experience and regret. He stepped forward, standing just outside Aiden's personal space. "You know as well as I do that humanity cannot survive without the power the XFY offer. We've been fighting for survival, but we've never truly understood what that means. They've been here for millennia. Without them, we're nothing. The galaxy won't allow us to live in peace." Aiden shook his head, disbelief rising within him. "You're still working with them? After everything we've uncovered? Humanity will never be able to live without guidance, without purpose. The XFY's influence isn't just manipulation, it's evolution. Their power is the only way forward. I've seen it, Aiden. I've seen what they can offer. We don't have to fight them, we can join them, and we can become part of something much bigger. Humanity deserves this." Aiden stared at Calix, his mind spinning. He had admired this man. Calix had once been his teacher, a man he had respected. Now, the same man was asking him to betray everything Aiden had worked for, to give up humanity's autonomy in exchange for something that felt like a golden cage. Aiden could feel his heart pounding in his chest, the weight of the decision like a mountain pressing down on him. Calix continued, his voice growing more urgent. "Aiden, you have a chance to truly reshape humanity's future. Don't let fear of the unknown hold you back. You'll have power to save us all." Aiden felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The offer Calix presented was tempting. It promised security. It promised survival. But at what cost? Aiden closed his eyes for a moment, thinking back on everything he had learned, everything he had fought for. He couldn't betray the hope he had clung to all his life. He couldn't let humanity be enslaved, even if the price was unimaginable. "No," Aiden said, his voice firm, breaking the tension in the room. "I'm not going to betray what I believe. I won't let humanity become a pawn in their game. We're gonna fight for freedom, no matter the cost." Calix's face hardened, but there was a sadness in his eyes that Aiden had never seen before. "You'll regret this, Aiden. I hope you can live with it." The two men stood facing each other for a long moment before Calix turned and walked away. Aiden felt a pang of loss. This was the man who had shaped so much of his understanding of the universe. But Aiden knew, deep down, that the path forward was clear. They would take down the HFY, and in doing so, free humanity from the shackles of an ancient manipulation. There was no turning back now. The Vanguard powered up for the final assault. Aiden's choice had been made, and the galaxy would soon feel the consequences of that decision. Humanity was no longer the weak, manipulated species. They were a force unto themselves, a force that could reshape the universe. And this battle was only the beginning. The final battle had begun. The Vanguard and its fleet, supported by the few XL share sympathetic to humanity's cause, launched their assault on the HFY stronghold, a fortress hidden deep within the heart of a dead star system. The human resistance was battered, its numbers dwindling, but they fought with a ferocity that only the most desperate can muster. Aiden, now the unwilling leader of this crusade, stood at the helm of his ship, his mind focused not just on victory, but on the cost it would demand. The HFY were formidable opponents, their ancient technology almost unfathomable in its complexity. But humanity, with all its imperfections, had something the HFY could never understand: determination. The human spirit, relentless and untamed, surged forward like an unstoppable tide, overwhelming the HFY forces despite the technological gap. Every human ship, every fighter pilot, and every ground soldier fought not just for survival, but for something deeper: their freedom. As the battle raged, Aiden watched the chaos unfold through the bridge's viewport, his heart heavy with the weight of the lives being lost. The XL Shar fleet, though divided, lent their firepower to the effort, but even they seemed to be struggling with the implications of what they were doing. For the XL Shar, this was more than just a war. It was a confrontation with everything they had believed. To help humanity, to support their fight, meant they were committing themselves to the unknown. They were abandoning the centuries-old mindset that had governed their existence. But they understood one thing: humanity's fight was not just for freedom. It was for the future of the galaxy. The HFY stronghold fell in a flash of brilliance. The central core of their fortress, the heart of their influence over the galaxy, was obliterated. A cataclysmic explosion rippled out across the system, its energy sending shockwaves through the entire galaxy. The HFY, at long last, had been eradicated. But the victory came at an immense price. The human fleet had been shattered, its numbers decimated. Zelshar ships drifted in the aftermath, their damaged vessels a testament to the struggle that had just transpired. The resistance had been victorious, but the galaxy lay in ruins. The cost of this war was a future that would require rebuilding from the ashes, a galaxy fractured into factions that might never come together again. Aiden stood in the war room of the Vanguard, his hands shaking as he gazed at the holographic map of the galaxy. Humanity had won, but the war had taken more than it had given. The scars of this battle would run deep, and the future of the human race now rested in their own hands. They had proven that they were more than just pawns in a galactic game. Humanity had shattered the chains that bound them, and in doing so, they had earned their place in the cosmos. But the sense of triumph was short-lived. The debris of the HFY stronghold floated in space, broken fragments that seemed to hide something far more sinister. It was then that Aiden uncovered something that had been hidden in the chaos of the war, a fragment of HFY data, a message encoded in a language he had never seen before. His fingers trembled as he decoded it, piecing together the fragments of an ancient truth. The HFY had not been the true architects of the galaxy's manipulation. They were merely pawns in a game played by an even older, more powerful species. A chill ran down Aiden's spine as the implications of the discovery settled in. The HFY had been used as much as humanity had been. And behind the HFY, hidden in the shadows of the galaxy's long history, was a force far greater than any they had faced before. The XL Shar had been wrong. They were not the true masters of the galaxy. There was something else, a race, or perhaps a force whose motives were still unknown. Aiden's mind raced with questions. Who were they? What did they want? And most importantly, were they aware of humanity's uprising? In the wake of this revelation, Aiden stood before his crew, the weight of this new truth pressing down on him like a heavy stone. Rhea Calder, standing at his side, looked just as troubled. "So, it was all just a game," she said softly, her voice tinged with disbelief. "The HFY weren't the ones pulling the strings. There's something even worse out there." Aiden nodded, his eyes tired and far away. "We've won, but we haven't truly broken free. The game isn't over. We've only just begun to see the real players." As the vanguard drifted among the ruins of the HFY's empire, Aiden's mind raced with the knowledge that this was just the beginning. Humanity had won the battle for its freedom, but the galaxy was still a vast, mysterious place, filled with ancient powers whose true nature was still shrouded in darkness. But the victory, despite its cost, had changed something fundamental in the human race. They had defied the odds, rejected the chains that had bound them for so long, and in doing so, proved that they were capable of more than survival. Humanity had taken its first steps towards something greater, something beyond the influence of the HFY, beyond the manipulation of forces older than the stars themselves. Yet, with this newfound power came a haunting question. Could humanity truly be free? The galaxy, now scarred by war and uncertainty, would never be the same. The victory felt hollow, as though they had simply replaced one master with another. Could they resist the temptation to rise to power themselves? Could they avoid the cycle of manipulation that had plagued every species before them? Or were they destined to become the very thing they had fought so hard to escape? The final lines of Aiden's report echoed in his mind as he gazed out into the endless expanse of space. Is it in humanity's nature to rise above the forces that try to control them, or do they only create new forces to control them in turn? As the vanguard powered down, Aiden looked ahead into the uncertain future. The galaxy was open to them, but its mysteries were far from solved. The next chapter in humanity's story had only just begun.